Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
Load up on guns and bring your friends. It's fun to lose and to pretend she's overboard and self-assured. Oh no, I know a dirty word.
Welcome to the Not Watching Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and today I'm joined by
Marcus Hurley.
This isn't going to be a massively long one, but the cinema's back, and with it, the actual release of Marvel's Black Widow movie, which, aside from probably being a bit late generally, was also very late, considering we all know what happened to Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, in Avengers Endgame, sadly.
But then I suppose, actually, I mean, I said that cynically as well, and just taking a moment, a thought has popped into my head. The Solo movie came out after The Force Awakens, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, in a sense, it's kind of the same thing then. I never thought about that until this very moment, only not as cool. A character.
No, I hadn't either, really. You're quite right.
No. Let's go back to my previous thought. Yeah, a bit late.
Yeah, I mean, you might. I don't know. Like, if it was, I don't really know, because with Star Wars, you're talking about legacy characters, and I think that thing was like part of the deal to get Kasdan to write The Force Awakens. That was one of his conditions.
Okay.
Weirdly, but anyway, so Black Widow, it sort of takes place directly after Civil War in the timeline, and sort of just explains a bit more about her and her backstory.
Okay.
The biggest criticism that's been levelled at this movie, which I can sort of understand, is the fact that there's lots of very dodgy Russian accents. Which, you know, I don't mind, because I just get my head around it. I can do the leap, you know, of like that they're really talking Russian or whatever.
See,
and it's
that's
like
the problem though. When people say, it's like when people say there's loads of dodgy English accents and loads of dodgy Scottish accents. I've heard a lot of genuine English people sounding like a lot of people I've heard on TV and film. So, isn't that a bit subjective? Unless we're talking like proper 80s, really heavily vodka-soaked, excuse the description, accents, you know, where just anyone turns up and you go, you know, I will cross you, you know, the sort of...
Yeah, I think it's particularly just Ray Winstone's kind of...
Oh, God. Is he
lack of ability to do accents?
Is he like you?
Just like,
I'm
oi,
KGB.
shut it!
I'm KGB, you mug!
Yeah, you mug, fucking shut it, you cunt. Yeah.
Ski.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But there's it's not bad. You know, it's not the best Marvel movie, I'd say, but
Is
definitely, you know.
I got the feeling
definitely
from
worth
it that it'll
watching.
be a pretty decent action film. Like, if you're just sort of like, you know, a good, almost like one of those films where there's a mission, they do it, and it's kind of done. Almost a bit like when you see the Howling Commandos and stuff take on the train, and like Solo, that kind of thing, where there's just like, it's something to do and they get on with it. And it's not outright shit, it's not blow your pants off amazing, but it just does what it does quite well with a couple of cool bits in. This is the vibe I'm feeling from it. Having not seen it
there's
yet.
some good choreography in it, as you'd expect. I wouldn't say there's any really memorable set pieces, but it does kind of go fairly apeshit at the end. And there's some good twists and turns. There's some good characters. David Harbour is quite good as the Red Champion, I think he's called.
Okay.
And Florence Pugh, in particular, actually, looks like she's probably going to be picking up the mantle from Scarlett Johansson going forwards.
Which is kind of probably the idea of the film then, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's setting up some things for sure. There's a post-credit sequence that I won't spoil, but that kind of links off of Falcon and the Winter Soldier a little bit. So
Yeah. Okay.
but it's weird because this film was supposed to come out before that show, so I don't know if there's some retconning involved or something, but it works. For me, it worked anyway. They do their best to tie in another few characters.
They melt Captain America's shield and Sam's wings, and Bucky gets shot in the face, and you're like, oh, what do we do now about these characters in this show? That's come up before.
It's a bit more subtle than that.
Yeah.
But there are some other characters they managed to rope in. William Hurt is in there as Secretary Ross.
Nice.
He pops up.
I like that they're keeping that character alive because it means the Hulk world, even if we never get another movie again, unless actually he's going to be in She-Hulk, isn't he?
Yeah,
but it's the whole idea. I like the fact that they're keeping that world alive, Thunderbolt Ross, and
for sure,
and the Hulkbusters and all that sort of stuff, because it gives the idea that this can still kind of happen in a weird way, The fact that I think in the She-Hulk series you've got what's his name coming back as Blonsky. What's his name? God, he was in Lie to Me. Timothy Small? No, not Timothy Small.
Oh, Tim Roth.
Tim Roth, that's it. You've got him coming back as Abomination, or that character. I'm not sure if it's before or after. So I'm just thinking, they're kind of tying the Universal film to it and scraping out all of the shit that was in that film and kind of just taking, this was part of our universe, this was part of our universe, we want to keep Thunderbolt Ross, and we want to keep this and that. Maybe Liv Tyler will turn up again as Betty Ross at some point in a cameo. And that'll be quite cool. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, because I think Banner's going to be in that as well, isn't he, in a small capacity?
Yeah.
I'm sure I read that
But I like the fact that they're trying to make it work by taking everything out and replacing, obviously, the Norton character with the Hulk we all know now, who also doesn't want to be Hulk. It seems to be it's like the curse, never mind the curse of Superman, it's like the curse of Hulk now, isn't it? It's a new age we're in.
Yeah, I suppose. But I won't go on about Black Widow any further because you haven't seen it yet, and we'll have more of a discussion about it probably in the broader context of the MCU, which now seems to be back online and coming out at cinemas this year. But speaking of massive film universes, there is one other film that I have seen since I was last on here at the cinema, and that was Fast and Furious 9.
Yes.
Which I also won't go on about too much because there's not really much to say, really.
They did the meme.
Yeah, I mean, they went to places no fast film has been before, but was always destined to.
Sort of inspired by Elon Musk, shall we say.
Yeah, let's just say that, cars in space. It's in the trailer. Fuck it. But yeah, I don't think it was too bad. They somehow have managed to bring back Han, which is miraculous considering that Jason Statham killed him.
And he died. He died once, then died retconned by Statham, and now he's back again.
Something like that. And because it seems that Vin Diesel and The Rock have fallen out, he's just gone and got another wrestler instead, John Cena. He's in there.
To be honest, apparently the whole rivalry between them was, I think it was in the last two films, or maybe even the last one, because there's this whole thing I never noticed when I watched it, maybe because it's a car movie and you're not really caring that much. But apparently there's a couple of scenes, whenever they're in each scene, they have to make one of them look bigger than the other.
I think it's mostly Vin Diesel's issue that he's short.
No, it was both of them. Dwayne called him lazy, and Vin Diesel said that The Rock was just egotistical and stuff like that. And they're just both at each other's throats to the point where whenever they were on screen with each other, the shots are almost like a crazy perspective, one person has
Right.
to be like really giant to the other, and the number of people they beat in each scene was upped. So it's like, oh, how many people did The Rock beat? I want to beat 20 people. And then how many people did Vin Diesel beat? I want to beat 30 people. So that's why sometimes it got a bit ridiculous with the number of bodies they were throwing around. Which
I believe
doesn't
the term-
impact on the magical story of it whatsoever. But
No, which is getting absolutely absurd at this point.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the term candy ass was involved, and I think now they're just kind of the way they've resolved it is to give The Rock his like own little spin-off franchise.
Yeah, Hobbs and Shaw, innit?
Yeah, and so I don't think he'll be. I think he was literally quoted because they were doing press for that Jungle Cruise movie, and he was quoted as saying pretty much like, "I won't be in the main franchise as long as Diesel's in it." But
Yeah.
I'm sure the studio will be happy to do another Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
I think that made bank. So
Yeah. And it was silly fun anyway, which is what the Furious films are anyway. So I didn't really. A lot of
Yeah.
people said that movie was trash compared to like Fast and Furious, 7, where these cars are dragging two safes around them and swinging them around like maces.
that's
Like,
the best. That's the best.
I know
set piece.
I know what a Dodge Charger is capable of, and it's not that. You know, swing. But then that's the whole point. It's a video game now at this point. It is just a
Yeah.
video game franchise. You don't have to use a controller to control. We're watching cutscenes. The movie.
Pretty much. I mean, we're in the 20th year of this franchise now.
Jesus.
So it's got its own inbuilt legacy and constantly retconned, timeline,
Yeah.
which is quite fun. And there's loads of like little side characters
You know
that they can bring in.
I can
and
see
stuff.
the twists coming because they're making it all about family, and the twist is going to
Yeah.
be that Vin Diesel isn't actually part of that family, and it's going to be like he was adopted or something into the family. So it's going to be like another set of films called Furious and Fast,
And he'll become the villain.
Yeah, he's finding his true family, and it's like all bad guys, and he's in charge of them, and they're like actually robbing banks and stuff, and it's going to be time travel, and it's going to turn out that all of the bad people they were racing against were actually him. And he has to go and undo all of his films, basically.
A time heist might be the way. Yeah, I think they're filming 10 and 11 back to back at the moment.
Oh, that's gonna. Normally, I would
so-
say that kills a franchise when they do two films back to back, but I don't think it's going to make much difference in this.
I wonder if that's like because Mission Impossible are doing that as well. Do you think it's just like
It's a tax break thing.
yeah, the ambition has just got so out of control that it just makes sense for them to just do
No,
a longer shoot.
they get a tax break. Whatever countries they're filming in primarily, if they get a big enough tax break, I mean, it's what killed the Matrix sequels, but that was because they got a massive boost from Australia. They said, look, if you film both films here, we'll give you a massive tax break on it, and you can just get it done. They're like, well, it makes sense. And half the time the scripts might not be finished. They're still writing it as they're going along. As with Pirates of the Caribbean, apparently the third film, as they were filming it, they were still revising the scripts and the story, and that showed.
Yeah, well, that's how they do Mission Impossible. I think that's like a logistics thing as well, like because they might not be able to pull off some of the stuff they need to that's on the page. But stranger things have happened.
Literally.
Throughout all of film history. But yeah, no, best of luck to him. Honestly, if you just want some big dumb fun at the cinema. Oh, incidentally, I actually didn't watch Black Widow at the cinema. I hired it on Disney Plus just because the football was going on and I was going away and I just didn't know when I would be able to. And to be honest, it doesn't really cost that much more. So I just thought, fuck it. And I just watched it at home.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no, it
sorry,
makes sense.
I forgot to mention that. But the main thing is that Black Widow is here finally, and so it's Fast 9, and the blockbusters are back. Like, there's films worth going to the cinema to see now, which is a very good thing as things slowly return to normal.
Exactly.
Who knows? Maybe next year we'll have a summer movie wager.
Fingers crossed. I was going to mention that, but I wasn't sure if it was a sore point.
No, not at all. Right, okay. What have I got here? Okay, so transitioning into some other films that have been also viewable at home. I know for sure that we have both now seen the Fear Street trilogy on Netflix.
Yes, indeed. God, that was ambitious.
It was originally. I think the original intention was for Netflix to put these out in cinemas a week apart, to sort of demonstrate their muscle and go like, this is how we can do Netflix on the big screen, sort of thing. But obviously with COVID and stuff, that sort of fell through. So they've just come out on Netflix normally.
I got to say off the bat, I'm impressed by them. I've been quite impressed by them.
Yeah.
The first one was, I would have been happy if the first one was a one and done. Somehow, like, and wrapped up a bit at the end, kind of thing. With the kind of typical, gap for a sequel or a follow up or something.
Yeah, you didn't need a next instalment the next week.
No.
But that's what I think they're trying to. What Netflix original idea was to sort of give you that sort of immediate gratification, or close to, but on a film scale. Obviously, you're not going to sit there and watch, 10 episodes of something. But he's like, this is worth going out for.
I liked what they were trying to do. I mean, like I said, as I've said many times, who would have thought we'd ever see a movie company trying to do what's done with TV series and comic books? After the MCU, everyone should be looking and going, these are different ways of getting our stories out there. Yeah. So, I think the idea of of getting films out, like, instead of having to wait every year for a film, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously it helps that most of the cast the same. So, but quickly, I just want to say these are based on books by R.L. Stein, who's mostly famous for doing the Goosebumps books.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which I think have also been turned into movies, or at least one movie.
Yeah.
But these Fear Street books were his attempt at sort of like following his audience as they grew a little older and could take a little bit more.
I can tell. They do seem a bit like... Yeah. A bit brutal.
So, definitely. They definitely up it. These are 18 certificate hard R slasher films. The first one is set in the 90s. The second one is set in the 70s. Yeah,
it's 94, 78, and then 1666.
That's it, yeah. So, but what's interesting is you sort of going... Each one, you kind of go further back in time, but you're kind of learning more about the origins of the curse of this town as you go, which I thought, because it just sounded like an odd proposition, but it really does actually make quite a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But he did loads of these books, apparently, and there has been rumour that the guy who directed this, or the girl who directed this, the director of this, is looking at maybe doing more films set in this universe.
Okay. So to me, that would be good. I would love to see more of that world, and maybe some of the characters turning up and stuff like that, because I don't think there's more to do with this story. This story is clearly like solved and done. It's like it's the end of that Outer Limits episode. It's tied off and that's it. Regardless of the outcome, the finale, it's sorted. But yeah, no, it's. I'm looking forward to if there's more in that world. That'd be great. It's kind of like having more haunting of sort of stories coming up. That's how I kind of feel about these. I really enjoy them. I love the fact that the first one, I think you said it was like Scream and Stranger Things, almost like smashed together. Or I don't know if it was you that said that, but someone else said, yeah, it was kind of like that by way of something else as well. It was pretty damn cool. And then the second one being almost their version of Friday the 13th.
Or Halloween, yeah.
Yeah, or Halloween, yeah.
Like summer camp, 70s summer camp style.
And God, that was brutal. That axe goes to town.
Oh, definitely. And the fact that there's what I like, because it's almost like a cinematic universe of killers.
Yeah. At
the end, like with all these different types of mad psychos running around and that.
And you didn't even get to see all of their kind of stories. You saw the origin of well, one really, in a way, because it was to do with the summer camp. It's kind of like the way that kind of came about was pretty cool, because that one was kind of responsible for a lot of the outright damage. But yeah. Some of the deaths in it though are just like made me wince.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
I've seen a hell of a lot of horror films, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, that's why I think it's definitely worth talking about, because it's. Yeah, I've seen so many grim films, but they really kind of went the extra mile, I think.
Yeah.
They really wanted to kind of, outdo expectations.
Yes.
I thought.
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, is that for once, I also grew to care about the characters more, which made some of the accidents even more like distressing, because you're like, oh my god, no. I was watching this.
Yeah, like it's like the moment you think they'll be okay, or normally there's something happens in like a tussle and like they get the upper hand, and it's not always the case in this. So it's like at any moment, any one of them could just go, and it's like bloody hell, okay. It just kind of grabs you by the face and says, "Take notice."
Yeah, they really do go to some effort to get you into the characters more than you normally would in a film like this, or a series of films like this.
Yeah.
That's why I sort of likened it to Stranger Things, I think, because it's kind of got that pet pacing, that sort of setup.
Totally.
Introducing everyone, who they are, and you never really kind of thinking, oh yeah, they're definitely dead. Maybe in a couple of cases. But I would say there's no outright annoying characters. Some of them are a bit cocky or whatnot.
It was weird because the main character, when you first see her, I wasn't too keen. I was a bit like, okay, but I thought, but it was a perfect character because it was a product of the time, the 90s and stuff, with listening to garbage and stuff like that, and very massively angst filled, and the start of grunge and all that sort of thing, or coming up to grunge maybe. Actually, no, grunge was later, wasn't it?
Grunge was going on about this sort of time.
Yeah. Because garbage wasn't really grunge, but a lot of people kind of said it was grungy, but it wasn't grunge at all. It was pop, wasn't it? But it was like, it was its own weird band, alternative.
Because of Butch Vig, it's the Butch Vig connection, because he was the producer of Nevermind, so they did kind of get a bit lumped in with that scene. No, there are some absolute cracking needle drops throughout. In the first two parts anyway.
I loved it. Yeah.
Someone had to point out on Facebook that they had a Prodigy track on there that wasn't released at the time, but
doesn't ruin the experience at all, though.
No, because it still gave me that. It still put me very much in mind of when I was at school, because that was kind of the era that I was at school near enough.
Yeah,
I would have been 15 in '94. So I find this even more reminiscent than 80s films, really. 90s is my time.
Yeah, exactly. Same here.
We're getting a lot of 90s nostalgia going on right now, because we've hit that point where we're all fucking middle-aged now.
I tell you what, though, even though I wasn't there, for me, one of my favourite bits was the Kansas Wayward Son drop in the second film, where you've got him just going around, and you've got that. She just sticks that track on, and it's just like brutal.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Cool.
I just found it really, really cool. It was like watching a different version of a lot of famous and genres and stuff, but also tweaked. So it was different enough, and a lot of the references as well. Like I said, in the 70s one, you got the Carrie Stephen King reference and stuff, and you've got all this kind of bits, but no Crystal Lake reference or anything like that. But obviously, 78. I don't know whether Halloween was set in 78 or 79. It might have been. Maybe that was the joke.
Very much around that time.
Yeah, but we're obviously not going into spoilers because it's just out. And it's definitely well worth a watch. And I just love the direction it goes. It starts off with just being sort of crazy slasher. Then you get the supernatural element. And then by the third film, it's kind of gone different. And it's just almost like The Witch.
Yeah, yeah.
One of those kind of
yeah.
community films where it's a bit like, oh god, what's going to happen here? Because throughout the entire two films, you hear about something mental going on, and then you're thrown right back to the start, and then you're kind of going, oh shit, where's it? And then I love the way it works. I love the direction it takes as well, because it twists, and you're left feeling quite satisfied at the revelations and stuff, rather than going, oh, I saw that kind of a mile away. Because I genuinely, I didn't until it was coming up to it.
I thought that it would bookend itself, but I wasn't ready for it to spend that much time doing like a sort of big resolution.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Although the last film was kind of strange, because it's literally split into two parts, isn't it? Like an hour or so each. Because it actually says like 1666 part 2, and then it kicks off.
You
back
mean
in
94 part 2?
Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it says that. Yeah,
yeah.
Sorry.
So it really announces itself like as a.
This is how it ends now. Yeah. But but it's strange, that first part though in 1666 really felt like a complete entire film. I don't know how they done it with the timing, but it was perfect to the point where...
Well, I think because a lot of it is all set up in the first two, you're really like sort of dumped straight into the middle act, and you're kind of just, you've just got to get to the twist, and then, right, how do we solve all this?
Yeah,
back
but it
to
was
the
weird
start,
because
sort of.
when it got to that part, I went, what? And then looked down at the timer and went, only an hour's gone by. I swore this felt as long as the other two. And I thought, how is there like an entire other act,
It really reminded me, actually, of Back to the Future. Like the sweep of that trilogy. Because I know it just goes back, and Back to the Future 2 goes forwards and then back. But when it goes forwards, it's kind of a fucked version of the future. So, like, it's kind of, it's mostly heading back. Yeah. But that's cool, and that's why I think that's why it works as a trilogy really well, like those three films. So
I really enjoyed them. Yeah, definitely worth a watch.
Definitely, and that's all on Netflix. If we haven't spoiled it too much, but you should have watched it.
No, I think we've kept away from it. There's loads I wanted to say, but we'll save that for I don't know, another time when there's more.
Yeah, maybe when I don't know. I right now I'd say it's in my films of the year. We'll see how well it fares. Cool. All right then. Also on Netflix, another blast of nostalgia. We've got a new Masters of the Universe series by
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith, the maestro behind like Clerks and Chase and Amy and Jay and Silent Bob and all that.
Yeah.
So this is just the first 5 episodes that they've released of 10, I believe, in this first run anyway.
Yeah.
Don't know, and it's kind of weird. I mean, he's kind of a good guy to handle it, really, because he's got very good geek credentials.
Yes.
And he's old enough to get it. But it's kind of a bit weird, isn't it, really? Because
it definitely shows it's on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, it's proper. It's that proper anime style of animation, similar to Castlevania, isn't it?
I loved it. I got to say. I mean, there's been a lot of divisive opinions about it, and I for one don't actually care about what people have to say about it. I thought if you're going to bring back Master Universe, you can't just do the same old shit.
No.
This week this happens, this episode this happens, and then there's a small sub-growing plot in the background. This is like Castlevania, as in there's a beginning, it goes on, something happens, and then they're just dealing with it. But yeah, I was happy because I didn't know anything about it, did not watch the trailer, didn't see anything, so I went in completely blind, and I got to say, I really enjoyed it. I think I was saying to you, I enjoyed the fact that the event did happen at the start, and that really surprised me. That was almost a kind of, it kind of reminded me a little bit Lord of the Rings, but instead of them carrying on, it's like, what if they all lost their way? Without spoiling anything, I'm just throwing a random reference, but I'm sure you know.
Oh, look, I mean, it's out there, man. Like, He-Man's barely in it.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
but that's not. But then he's so overpowered. It's it's the only way any kind of story can develop.
But it's not only He-Man's barely in it; Skeletor's barely in it as well.
Yeah, but he's also overpowered that it was.
But they do pop up like in flashbacks and stuff.
Yeah,
and they the first episode is pretty standard, but it's the following 4 that people are up in arms about. Everyone is going mental about this.
Well, I don't know. I think, to be honest, it kind of, for me, it felt quite good because I always thought that Teela was an underrated character and the relationship between her and Man-at-Arms. And I like, one of the things that's said is that Man-at-Arms was the most dangerous person on Eternia. Which was true because he made all the weapons, he did all the defence for the castle. He's the reason why a lot of things don't, and he's the one that rides in a lot of the time.
I just don't remember any of it, mate. I remember
I barely do,
and that's it.
I barely do, but it's like He-Man charges in. He's basically, He-Man is basically, what's his name? Guy charges into the fucking battle while they're planning. He-Man is Leroy Jenkins.
Oh, right, yeah.
Basically, that is He-Man. He's Leroy Jenkins. He just runs straight down the middle, and if he hits the right thing, it's defeated. Or if they're in trouble and he turns up and Leroy Jenkins, that was pretty much it. And you can't have that as a story now, because it would be so unsatisfying. It'd just be ridiculous. It'd be like watching Star Trek, and then they're all in trouble, and suddenly the Enterprise turns up and throws torpedoes. It's like Power Rangers, actually. That's exactly what it was. He-Man was like Power Rangers. They couldn't defeat the thing, get in the big robot, hit it with a sword, it blows up the end.
Yeah, which I guess worked fine when we were children, but
exactly.
I guess we require slightly more now.
This is on an adult network, on an adult platform, with a story called Revelations. It's more than that, and I love the fact that we're going to do slight spoilers. Don't know.
Can do.
Couldn't do, yeah, fuck it. If the internet's blown up about it, people are going to see it anyway. I like the fact that at the start of it, Skeletor had basically had enough. He was like, I'm done with this shit. The usual stuff I did, I'm going straight to Grayskull whilst they're having a party, and I'm going to rip it down. I'm going to try and find the fucking thing should have been looking for my entire life. And that is at point 0. He starts from there. And then you have the bit where he actually gets stabbed. And I was at that point, I was like, oh shit, okay. Because, we always see the peril where, the sorceress has been weakened and it's like magic and she's holding them back and everything. And, that's typical stuff. But people actually getting stabbed it's like people getting maimed and stuff in cartoons. You don't see that.
No, not really.
And the fact that he goes, you use that. And then the whole bit where it happens and the sword splitting and stuff like that. That was a nice nod, because I remember back when these were toys and stuff, you had the Power Sword, which He-Man had, and if you bought Skeletor, he had a purple version. And I don't think it was... I think it only pops up in 1 or 2 of the shows. So the idea of them being twin swords, I like the fact that they kind of did it in a weird way, where they didn't just split the same sword into 2. It was almost like Soul Edge and Soul Calibur again as well. These 2 halves, like one's light, one's dark, and they form the conduit. I quite like that. I thought that was a nice nod without doing that again. And then we get the whole part with Teela's heritage as well, in the Cave of Fear, where she goes, you should be my worst nightmare. And you see, I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure they revealed a lot of her stuff in the original show as well, like who her lineage comes from and stuff like that.
Well, isn't she the daughter of Man-at-Arms?
She's the adopted daughter. She's the daughter of the sorceress.
Oh, yeah, that rings a bell.
Because that was why I liked her little journey, because it was like she'd finally had enough of all of the bullshit, gone off, and done her own thing, and then that was the kick up the arse she needed to go, look, I don't give a fuck about what you're talking about with my fear and all that. It wasn't her doing a, G.I. Jane, sticking it to whatever, patriarchy or anything like that. It was literally her saying, I didn't accept the role because I was scared of it, because I've already got this power, because I think they were hinting that she was going to be the champion.
Right.
And she was like, you know, you were afraid of it. That was your fear and stuff like that. And that was why she was just like, yeah, Adam's just a twat and all that, and He-Man and whatever. So and you see hints of it when her eyes glow blue and she's got the mark on her forehead, and it's just like, oh, they can actually do it. And at one point he actually says, I've got something to tell you, and then Evelyn goes, we don't have time for more family feuds. And they just cut it off. I'm like, oh, they always said it. But I got to say, I loved the voice cast. The voice acting was really spot on.
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
It was phenomenal, really good. It put you in there, just like Castlevania, and you're in that world. There's none of this sort of, oh, that guy sounds a bit weird or anything like that. It was just, these are the people, these are their voices. I know for me, as I jokingly said on there, having Lena Headey voice Evelyn was a bit weird.
She's excellent. I love it when they
I
go.
said it was like my childhood and adult crushes sort of merging together. Sort of like,
yeah. It's like there's a good line in there where it's like, you weren't christened evil.
He goes, no, I added that bit later.
Yeah. You've also from Game of Thrones, you've got Liam Cunningham as Man at Arms, who's just brilliant.
Sir Davos, isn't he?
Sarah Michelle Gellar's playing Teela, which she hasn't been doing a lot lately.
I know.
It's nice to see her about. Obviously, Mark Hamill as Skeletor. Can't beat that. No. Henry Rollins is Triclops. Yep. I really like Stephen Root as Cringer. He's an excellent actor, and he plays both parts well. There's a Kevin Conroy's Merman. He shows up. He's getting he's even Jason Mewes obviously plays Stinkor. He only gets a couple of lines, but
of course he's going to be Stinkor, isn't he? The weirdest name in one. It's almost like Blunt Man or something, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he's got his daughter in there as well, and Alicia Silverstone,
who was she?
Queen Marlena.
Yeah.
Don't even remember that some of these. It's pretty extensive. He's definitely called up all his mates.
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, like, you know, it's same case with Invincible. They're all out of work. You know, they've all probably like appreciated the kickback really, just to be able to keep themselves busy while they can't
doing
act.
Something vocally is a nice exercise as well. You get to throw your range around still without worrying what you look like on film. So I'm guessing that's why I wonder why a lot of actors don't do that still as well. And cause I think it must be quite cool to be able to do that. It's almost like you get to go a bit theatre with it.
Yeah.
You know, if they put the work in. Because it's not about how you look on screen, it's about what you're bringing to the character, the gravitas and all that sort of stuff. It's a different art form in itself. But yeah. Man.
Cool.
So when are we getting more of it? Is it later on in the year or something?
I'm not sure when the rest of it arrives. I think I did look on the Netflix listing's a bit messed up. It's saying that there's no date. I think it's just later this year.
Well, it's like I mentioned to you. It reminds me of the 2011 Thundercats reboot, which you said you didn't catch, and that's well worth a watch. They basically took the 80s one, made it a bit more serious like this, and just kind of told a similar story with them whole crashing and everything, and, you know, coming from Thundera, I think the planet. So it's basically the same thing again, but a lot more serious, and I think they put like one episode in there where they're helping these random people as a kind of tribute to the kind of old school stories. But the rest of it is generally like them all dealing with various bits and pieces, and, you know, Lion-O having to deal with a burden, I think, and stuff like that. And it was pretty good from what I remember.
I quite like these redos because I mean, rewatching the old stuff we actually used to watch is a bit looks a bit shit, badly, doesn't it?
Massively,
it's a bit
badly.
dated.
Yeah,
but this one looks all right. I don't know what it's on. Do you know what it's on?
I have no idea. I watched it a long time ago before these streaming services were even a thing. So let's just say a little parrot and a little man. Street corner.
We'll look
but
into that.
Hopefully it'll be
maybe.
somewhere. It'll be somewhere. I'll have a look and find it.
I mean, I've committed to Clone Wars for now, so that's pretty much my go-to animated show. Probably
I've been having those on in the background. There's a hell of a lot of them. I don't even remember where I'm up to now, but
I've just started season 2.
Oh, really?
I've done the first because the way they organise them episodes in Clone Wars is it's kind of like there's like a 3-episode arc that's one story.
I'm quite a few. I think I'm a
just
couple
done
of
the first
seasons in
one.
there.
I've just done the first one, which was where they're trying to steal this holocron.
Oh yeah, that was a while back.
But yeah. Anyways, so that's Masters of the Universe Revelation. I just want to sneak in one
Go for
quick thing before we talk about Loki. I think you've got some more as well.
Yeah.
Actually, why don't you go? Because your stuff, I think,
mine
is
be quite
animated,
quick.
isn't it?
I caught a random anime series that I kind of put on, a Netflix original anime series, but unlike Netflix's dodgy anime ones anyway, this is actually from a Japanese studio, and it's Godzilla Singular Point, which is basically a weird retelling of the Godzilla mythos. A couple of years back, Toho released a film called Shin Godzilla, which was basically another way in which Godzilla came from this weird organism and kept mutating and dying on land. And it was like it kept evolving. It was freaky. Like it was this bug-eyed tadpole thing smashing through buildings and all that, and kept evolving to the point where it became this weird fucked up version of Godzilla by the end of it. Pretty cool. But this is kind of a similar way. It's Godzilla but in a different world. Basically there's this weird red mist and stuff, and almost like a pterodon comes from it. And these people are just doing all this sort of, typical Japanese thing. I think it's set slightly in the future because this grandpa's building like a power loader style robot and showing it off at a kind of fate thing. And this pterodactyl flies over and then crashes into the building and starts attacking people. And then like, what the fuck? And it looks like, and then more of them appear, and they started calling them Rodan. So it's they keep evolving and dying and coming back and living longer and stuff. And then something else appears, and it's like, so it's basically all of the old Toho creatures, but they kind of appear in different forms from this kind of weird, I don't know if it was a dimensional mist or some craziness, but in true anime bullshit, they always go on about spatial this and that and everything else, and it's a lot of weird pseudoscience that they love cramming in. But I loved it. It was interesting. It was nice to see an actual animated series and not the weird 3D thing that they put out. Those weird 3D sort of animated ones they did lately. This is quite nice. It's like the robot they had was called Jet Jaguar, which is kind of like an Ultraman clone, which popped up in the Godzilla series. So having it named and seeing it evolve into its AI kind of evolves, and there's kind of like a weird time loop involved in it as well, trying to solve a mystery of all these numbers counting down to what. And actually seeing Godzilla evolving as well from this creature, and they called it Godzilla, and it looked more like a kind of frog lizard, and I was like, is that what they're going to go with? Is it going to turn into the 1994 Godzilla that we kind of tried to forget about? and then it turned into this weird good approximation, and it was like, and then the bit where it does like its beam for the first time really freaked me out. It's almost like it doesn't quite know what it's doing. It does like a ring first, like a blast ring, and then it starts building this fucking thing up, and it looks like a fucking space laser. Like I had to rewind it back with the headphones on, going, Jesus Christ! Like this thing's like, you can see it powering up in its face, and then these rings like appear out in front, and then this thing just rips through them and starts blasting through buildings, and it's just like it can't control it, and it's just like spinning round and everything. So it's literally like Godzilla as a primal creature that isn't hero or villain. It's just a thing, and they're trying to kill it or stop it or whatever. And it's quite interesting. It's quite nice. And I think there were like 10 episodes of that, and I think there might be a second season because it's got an opening credits and ending credits, and the opening credits show more than they do in the actual thing. So I imagine there's going to be more to come. Plus, with the Rodan keep evolving, there's going to be a point where there's going to be just one. And it's going to be the big flamey Rodan fire bird that we know. So it's kind of like...
Is this dubbed or with subtitles?
This is either. It's dubbed, subtitles, the original Japanese. You can watch it dubbed. I think I watched it dubbed because the dubbing was actually pretty good. But yeah, it was pretty cool. And there's this weird little AI thing as well that goes onto a laptop and then turns into a dog and starts doing all this kind of weird comic relief type thing, which the Japanese do. But it's kind of reminded me of like the Microsoft Paperclip. But I was thinking, why don't we have this version instead of that bastard thing that we had to put up with? So yeah, I don't know. It was good fun. It was nice to see something like that, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Cool. There's something else as well.
There
watched,
was.
There?
It's because Netflix had a couple of live action adaptations from various famous anime series, and this one is Rurouni Kenshin, and there's a set of. I saw these films quite a while back. I think when me and Suze were first going out, so it might have been like 2012, something like that. The first one, 2013 maybe. Maybe even before, I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, there were 3 films, and there's a 4th one now. So I went back and I started watching it from the beginning. So I've watched the first one, and it's kind of like the wire fu Asian cinema sort of thing. You got this wandering guy, and he just plays the fool, and he's got a reverse sword, so it's like the blades on the inside edge of the curve. So whenever he's hitting people, he just stuns them rather than killing them. But the whole point of the character is that when he was younger, he was this assassin that was known. He was literally the Batosai, the man killer, the undefeated one, and his style is basically this unknown style, as anime as that sounds and as samurai as that sounds. And he basically was just the top murderous bastard of the world, basically, or something. And whenever he switches back, like if there's a point where he gets pushed, his mannerisms change and everything, and it only works really in the Japanese, because he speaks in a very honorific tone. So he refers to everyone by, like, you've got, in Karate Kid, you got Miyagi calling Daniel-san and stuff like that. In Japan, you've got a term even more above that, which is basically kind of like Old English, where you refer to someone as Dono instead of San. So he uses that a lot. But when he switches and he's really pissed off and just wants to murder you, he flips his sword round and his speech changes, very coarse, almost Yakuza-like. And his mannerisms change completely. And it's just like, it works really well in that sort of thing, but it's like, yeah. And they're a lot of fun, and it's kind of nice to see. It's one of the better adaptations because it works in its own right without having to see the source material. But you get a lot of really weird Japanese characters and stuff, and it's all set in the kind of the end of the Shogun era. I think it's the Meiji era, when it's you've got the police and samurai basically outlawed. So he gets a lot of stick for carrying a sword, but he's like, no, it's a reverse sword, and they're like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
There are a couple of films on there, so I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and how it ends. But that's that.
Yeah, part 1 and 2. I can see
there's
on
part
IMDb.
1. There's 1 to 4 now on Netflix.
They're probably not. They're probably just like, subtitled, right?
Yeah, ones like Kyoto Infernal and stuff.
Not 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah, I think the third one was like The Legend Ends.
It does. Yeah, I can see some more. Cool. All right, mate. Yeah. That sounds wicked. I just wanted to very quickly mention this show called This Way Up, which stars Aisling Bea, and she's Irish, and it's also got her off of. I'm a real fan of Sharon Horgan, and she was one of the writers behind Motherland and was also in Catastrophe. She just plays her sister. Anya, the main character, played by Aisling Bea, is a little bit mental, to be honest. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. She's just got some issues and stuff. And she's an English teacher, and it's a bit naughty, and they're only like 20 minutes long, and it's just really nice to watch. I really enjoyed it. It's funny. It's all on Channel 4. You can probably watch the whole thing in a night. But yeah, it's just 12 episodes, season 1 and 2. So that's
nice.
It. Tobias Menzies, who you might know off The Crown, played Philip in the last couple of seasons. He's in there as a bit of a love interest. Yeah, that's pretty much the only other thing I've watched apart from Loki, which finally wrapped up its 6-episode run on Disney Plus.
Yep.
I think it was last week or the week before. But this is the first time we've had a chance to record anything about it, so I just wondered what you thought of it overall.
I'm in two minds, if I have to be brutally honest.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that the pace of episode, I think it's 4, where they go to the moon. No, the planet with the moon.
That's like blowing
The
up.
sci-fi, the more sci-fi one, yeah. Because of the way that goes. So after the, I kind of feel like the 3rd episode should have been the 2nd episode. And then kind of a bit more from there.
Wasn't the 4th one where not much happened, or was that 5?
See, that's the problem. I think it was 5, maybe. Because it started off and it kicks off, and then I think the 5th one it's kind of hard to tell because there are only 6 episodes. But I remember the first one being a bit weird, and the second one more talking, and then maybe he goes in the library and starts looking through books and stuff. For a bit longer than he should have.
There's a couple. It is a bit oddly paced for a weekly show.
It should have been. It's paced for like a 10-episode show.
Yeah,
because by the time it gets going, you're like, oh.
Yeah, and the finale was pretty much like, here's this dude who's a variant of someone else who we'll be seeing more of later.
Who has other variants who are all mega evil.
Yeah, we're going to go into
nice
spoilers now. This is full spoilers for Loki, so tune out now if you're not interested.
Yeah.
So, yeah, He Who Remains. Also, Kang the Conqueror.
But we don't know that 'cause he never addresses himself, does he?
No, but I've heard rumour that that's who he is supposed to be.
I've heard that as well. But I don't know who that is, though. That's the problem. I'm out of the MC, the Marvel sort of world at the moment, so I can't actually remember who Kang the Conqueror is. Is he a more recent
addition? Isn't he supposed to be... he's Nathaniel Richards, who is the father of Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four.
Is he?
That's
who Kang...
something about it.
Okay. Well, in that case, then that might be why fans are getting a bit more excited then.
As first appearance as Rama Tut, Fantastic Four 1963.
If he is, then they're kind of acknowledging the fact that the Richards... I don't know, if he never acknowledges his proper name, though, they could just... There might not be any reference to the Fantastic Four, because it is off the back of the MCU, so they could just scrub that bit out.
Mm.
You know?
Oh.
Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah, I see. He's got a Galactus thing going on there. With that kind
I think
of headgear.
Someone's photoshopped that up. Yeah, it's a bit of a...
But yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, I don't know much about any of that. So for me, I thought maybe this was a way of taking a toffee hammer to it and smashing it so all the fragments make sense. Because all the rumours about the next Spider-Man film, you've got the Doctor Strange film, which we've known for a while is called Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
I think that was revealed on the timeline ticker, wasn't it? When they went through all the phases. So you kind of think, well, they're doing a multiverse thing, obviously. And obviously with Spider-Man as well, you've got Enter the Spider-Verse. But also you've got other things like Secret Wars. You've got all sorts of stuff going on. You've got... Yeah, I don't know. It opens the possibilities for a lot. And for a lot to come through as well.
Yeah, I sometimes can't help but think like all these shows have been so obsessed with kind of setting stuff up for future movies.
I don't know if it's always about movies. I think in this case, this is going to be almost like a comic reboot where they take the universes, split them, and then smash them together into another Prime universe. So, like I said, maybe. this could be the proper birth of mutants and everything else because they exist on parallel variants, parallel timelines, and all that. Because that's what this has been talking about the entire time. So, It's the idea, and it all going crazy, and all the timelines spinning off and everything. And now it looks like a lot's fused together, and they're in a different timeline. So it could be a different timeline, could be the same timeline, could be whatever. We don't know. And I think the people making the films have got the memo, and we don't know about it. So this might be how we get characters like Blade and everything else popping up now.
Yeah, I mean,
whereas you kind of go, where were they before?
That's it. You've got to think like we're talking about another sort of 10-year long plan.
Yeah.
If it's anything like the last one was, and we're really only at the beginning here of what's possible. But anyway, yeah. So Loki itself, though, before we just start spinning off into like
yeah, it's true,
endless speculation. Yeah, I did enjoy it. I thought he was great. I liked her as
Sylvie.
Sylvie, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I thought Owen Wilson was good. I thought Owen Wilson's character was really good.
Yeah, he was really, really surprisingly good. As I said last time, I think he was nowhere near as annoying as I thought he might be. I generally liked how crazy it was. I liked that Richard E. Grant showed up as kind of like classic Loki. Yeah, literally, it says in IMDb, classic Loki. With his alligator Loki.
Yeah, and the kid Loki and the guy who... It's funny, though, because the kid one who says he caused a variant by killing Thor, and you realise he's lying, because there's a scene where they go down to his lair and the camera pans through the earth, and you see Thor in this sort of jar in the ground, trying to break his way out.
That.
Yeah, trying to break his way out, and it's like, well, he didn't kill him; he just shrunk him, stuck him in a jar, and put him in the earth. So it's like, so as much as Loki's trying to be evil, he's always a bit good, and I think that was one of the things about it. It's like he's not just outright evil; he is balanced as everyone else. He just prefers being a trickster god to kind of just play about and pretend he's, Yeah,
well, he thinks that's his role, isn't it? Because he hasn't got the, because he's like the black sheep and he hasn't got the hammer.
He's the Prince Harry.
Yeah,
basically.
Kind of. Yeah, he's just going to fuck shit up to get the attention.
He's got no prospects, whatever. He's not even full blood. He's adopted. He's like the son of an ice giant. He's, he's not even full Asgardian. So he's like, well, they kind of saw me as a half villain when I was younger, then I might as well carry on playing the role. They don't expect anything less of me.
Yeah.
And he always says he's got great, he's burdened by great, was it ambition or something like that? But you kind of think, but he isn't. What is his plan? He doesn't really have one.
No.
He just says that to himself, and it kind of all-encompassing justifies him just fucking around, murder, stealing, killing, plotting, this, that, and he just says, I'm burdened by great purpose or something. And it's like, well, what is that great purpose? Because even if he got to rule the universe, he would be bored. He would be bored, because you saw him on Asgard. All he was doing was putting on planes. He was just like, oh, well...
He needs the challenge, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Otherwise, he has no purpose.
But I thought the series had some really awesome bits, like the revelation that all the people in the time, the TDA, are all remnants that have been plucked, and the fact that pruning doesn't mean actually killing you; it's sending you somewhere. And that was kind of cool. And it's that guard as well. She's going to come back into her own. I don't know who she was. The main guard that keeps popping up, and she goes back to Sylvie and she helps them out. So there's lots in place. I'm wondering where she's going to go with the new timeline and stuff like that, or whether she's off world or so.
Yeah, because of course we have got season 2 coming, haven't we? At some point.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's more episodes than 6. If there's 4 or something, I'm going to wait for them all to stack up and watch them, because I struggled after each week. When the credits were almost as long as the show, it was a bit like...
Yeah, I mean, I might stack them up next time. I am starting to find it a bit annoying. I like I mean, Ted Lasso season 2's just started, and I'm stacking that up.
Yeah.
So I'm just watching a lot of like odds and bits and bobs. But
there were some fantastic. There was. I mean, I got the feeling initially that it might have been a lower budget show, based more on the acting from the first couple of episodes. You know, you got some cool special effects of the doorways, and you know the whole timeline being pruned and stuff. But you think that's just your standard disintegration effect and stuff like that, and quantum leap doorways, but in gold.
yeah,
But
I think they were able to do a finale like this one because they were doing a second series. I would have been a bit fucked off if it had just ended and that was it, and we didn't get that little tease at the end.
Yeah.
Although I think they had said that they would be doing another one of this one. I think this was the one that always, before it came out, they said that, you know, there's potential for more.
Yeah. But I did like that episode where they were stranded on that planet, the catastrophe one with the moon slowly crashing into it. I thought that was a pretty cool episode because you got to see them. You got to see them. Well, the 2-part episode it was, wasn't it? Because it ended with the spaceship.
I think that was they got their episode 3, and then they did that awesome like one shot where they were running around.
Yeah,
I quite enjoyed that.
To get to the ship.
Because most of the episode up till then had been a bit talky.
Yeah,
but then it
the
kind
whole
of
bit
ended
on the
on a real
train
high.
as well. The bit on the train where he just suddenly gets drunk, and I was a bit like, okay, they've dialed it back again now, and they're going to be on this train for like 5 hours, and then they got thrown off, and I was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, they're quite punchy episodes though, aren't they? They're like kind of 40 minutes.
Yeah,
I think they were like maybe a bit longer with the massive long credits on the end.
Yeah,
but no, I really enjoyed it.
I want to see more, but it was just a bit. I just thought, the pacing was a bit weird.
It was just all a bit weird. Really.
I could have left it and just watched them all, and then gone, okay, cool.
Yeah, I didn't have the same kind of episodic hook that like WandaVision had.
No.
That I think overall maybe WandaVision might be the better show, you know, because that had like a
bar the
had
first
like a
2
built-in
episodes.
hook to it.
The first 2 episodes, I think a lot of people didn't get that was the gimmick, that they were in this TV show. But when things started to change, like the person showing up, and then the thing where the person says something to them, like, you know, Dimitri, he died by Ultron, and she's like, excuse me, what? And it all changes. And things like where they're talking, and you hear the sound of the TV bars, the black bars at the top and bottom actually moving. You hear this sort of like scrolling rock sound as they're actually being pulled apart or forced together and stuff like that. Little things like that. I think there were more Easter egg and, you know, visual trickery bits in there to keep you going. And it worked out as a nice way of her becoming Scarlet Witch. Whereas, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier had to be a more action movie. It had to be more of a buddy movie because of the way that they were towards each other. And I'm glad they kept it the way it was, almost like Marvel's Lethal Weapon.
I just don't think they're that compelling characters either of them, really.
But that's what I mean. But that's why they had to make it like I said, like Marvel's version of Lethal Weapon, where they had the thing comes from, you know, because Sam, he the whole point of it was showing that, he's this guy, and you know he was just the on the left guy, and he's okay as an extra. But when he's in the main person, and even his own family turn and say, look, you just don't see what's going on. You're too busy with your head in the clouds, just going off, doing this and that. Being a hero doesn't pay. Everyone else is suffering, and you're just flying around. And he's like, no, I can fix it. And then he can't fix it. And I thought that was great, because that's what the character needed. The character needed to see reality. You know, when he's not running around with Tony Stark and everyone else, and it's like, you know, you're almost like on God level. But when you're grounded and down to the ground and actually going after criminals with no backup and everything, and having to deal with family stuff. And that's why I said it reminded me of like Lethal Weapon, because you got that kind of weird dynamic between them two, and Winter Soldier's got nothing to almost live for. He is Riggs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could have been Lethal Weapon, but it's not even in the same league, in my opinion. It was going for that kind of thing. But
yeah, I just meant in the way that the characters are. Like, one is broken and doesn't really have anything, and he's a bit of a loose cannon. I mean, in the general outline, not in the depth and legacy.
I get the similarity that you draw there. That's totally valid. That's totally fine. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, I think out of all the characters that they've done a show for, Loki is by far the more compelling. But yeah, I think we've got a way to go with it, and I just wonder, like, how well future series will sync up with the rest of it all. I
don't want it to go like Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where it starts off at the start and you get cameos from them and it's part of the timeline. And because basically that show started off, cheesy as it was, you had Lady Sif in there, so it was part of the Marvel Universe. And then you had Winter Soldier film happen, and S.H.I.E.L.D. basically was destroyed. And then after that point, they just basically had to do a whole weird Hydra thing, and then that show branched off, and they only mentioned New York. It's almost like another timeline.
I wonder if that twist at the end of Loki is just there to enable it to be its own thing.
Maybe.
The fact that it's all about the whole timeline and stuff, they can just go wherever they want with it, really.
Because that's the thing in the comics. Yeah. That's the thing in the comics, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
And you have the whole thing in Spider-Man Far From Home. Where you've got was it Quentin Blake, whatever his name is, what's his name, Mysterio.
Yeah.
Where he basically says that he's from a different Earth, and he says, I can't remember if they said he's from 616 or he says that the one they're on is 616, and that's an actual Marvel designation for the standard Prime Earth. Even in the Marvel comic universe, they even have a designation for the Earth that we're on. As in you and me, with no superheroes or anything like that.
No, that makes sense.
I'm just thinking whether it's like that sort of thing, where because we all know that was another origin movie, wasn't it, for the real Mysterio?
Well, yeah, but that was a bit of a fake out, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, the guy who took the actual technology and stuff, the guy who actually built it all. He was the big poster boy, and it was the guy who went off. The guy he kept threatening, the really nerdy guy. He's the real Mysterio.
Employee.
Yeah, he's the real Mysterio.
Oh right, fucking hell!
I know.
I didn't read that far into it, really.
I only realised that after my second viewing or so.
Well.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. All right then, mate. Before I swallow my own tongue.
Before my head explodes.
My head explodes. I think we'll call it there. Just a short one this week.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Not Watching Podcast, part of the Not Listening Podcast Network, where you can also find the Not Playing Podcast, where we talk about video games, and the Not Listening Podcast, where you can hear Adam and Co talk about all kinds of nonsensical nonsense. You can email us at notwatchingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet out or follow us on Twitter at notwatchingpod. You can find the show notes for all our shows at notlistening.co.uk, and if you like what you've heard here, please do leave us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, stay safe out there.
So what films have we got coming up? I don't really know. Because with cinema being back, haven't we?
Right, so Suicide Squad is out this weekend, I think.
Be worth watching that.
I'm waiting for reviews, but I have to say I do trust in James Gunn, and I've really enjoyed the trailers that I've seen.
Yeah, I think a DC version of Guardians can't really go wrong. What was missing from the first Suicide Squad film. and hopefully the Suicide Squad can correct it and fix a lot of it.
Then we've got Candyman, the remake of Candyman. That's out at the end of August. Shang-Chi is out the week after that. That's the next MCU film.
Yeah, I want to see where that's going. That might be one of the big ones, because that could potentially bring back more Iron Man related stuff, or not. That sort of world, because it's kind of like, it's only living on in the Spider-Man stuff, really, isn't it? Yeah,
pretty much. A couple of weeks after that is June, which looks spectacular. Just saw the recent trailer for that.
Does look cool.
Can't wait. It looks like epic Lord of the Rings level, Endgame level shit. A couple of weeks after that, you got Bond, No Time to Die, finally, after a couple of years worth of delays. Couple of weeks after that, you got Halloween Kills and The Last Duel, which is the new Damon Affleck written Knights thing, Dark Ages thing. I think it's directed by Ridley Scott, isn't it? Is that the same one?
So it's kind of almost like another Kingdom of Heaven,
might be getting confused.
Potentially.
Hang on.
I think that was a Ridley Scott film, or was that a James Scott? I can't remember. But because that was good.
I think that is Ridley Scott, actually, The Last Duel. Am I going mad? Ridley Scott, written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
Wow.
And it's got Adam Driver in it as well. That looks cool. And then Halloween Kills, that's the sequel to like the last one.
Yeah,
the reboot.
I'm looking forward to that, because that's going to bookend it as an alternative. Yeah. Funny enough, in the same vein of most of what we've been talking about, an alternative timeline trilogy.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the last one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm up for that. And then I think by the time we get to then, I don't know. Might do an episode before then, just see how it goes. I mean, I definitely have one put in for like when after Bond.
Yeah.
And then we've got 1st of November is the Eternals.
I forgot about that entirely.
Yeah, so we've got another little mini summer almost, because then the week after that you've got the new Ghostbusters.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the week after that you've got the new Top Gun.
It's coming back, isn't it? They're all coming back, aren't they?
Yeah, well they've all got a bit stuck together, so they're trying to be quite strategic. But the summer is looking pretty sparse, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think because they're just a little bit wary. They've all basically shunted them a bit further up into the year.
Yeah.
While the world gets its fucking life sorted.
Yeah.
And then you've got fucking Megaton at Christmas right now. If this is true, so on the 6th of December you've got West Side Story. That's the Steven Spielberg remake of that.
Well,
probably not core what we talk about, but I've got it written down here anyway. And then the week after that, you got the new Spider-Man.
Good grief.
And then the week after that, apparently on the same day, and this is no way happening. Well, I know if one of them's moving, it's probably The King's Man.
Oh,
because also that date is the 4th Matrix film.
Oh, God. Should we just live in the cinema that day? Christmas,
yeah, pretty
just
much.
Go to the cinema.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Bring your turkey and just sit down and just watch films all day.
Yeah, and then we can all have a break for a couple of months after that.
I tell you what, though, if they still got the kind of Prime payment ideas, it might not be a bad idea to catch some of those at home as well. Like ones where I'm kind of a bit like, ones I definitely would like to see in the cinema, but I'm sure now that they've tested the waters with this alternative delivery system, I can't imagine them not also doing a home version. Simply because people might still be umming and ahhing in it as well. It's money, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Disney stuff, they haven't announced it yet for any of their stuff, but I'll happily continue watching that at home.
Yeah, because you've got 4K screen and everything, and
Yeah, it looks fucking
you've got
amazing.
a cinema with no knobheads talking.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, honestly. But June, I wouldn't mind going IMAX for. That's probably the one I'm most looking forward to this year. And maybe The Matrix, depending on what the trailers look like and what the buzz is like. But yeah, no, there's some fucking big movies. The cinema is back, to reiterate it at the end of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really back. So yeah,
Cool.
I may go and see Suicide Squad in the next week or so. I'll just see how it goes. And maybe we will do another episode before the end of the summer.
Cool.
If there's enough to fucking bang on about by then.
Yeah. Well, on that, I think we should end it.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep.
100%.